The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Joanne Mercier. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Dom. Hi, everybody.
And Father Cory Stika. Hi, Father Cory.
How's it going?
Very well, thanks. So here we are, folks. We are separated by at least, Joanne and I, at least dozens of miles. Father Cory and the rest of us, hundreds of miles. We are outside the range of whatever viruses seem to be traveling about. Although
we are still watching for the internet coronavirus, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
True.
Yes. Although we are experiencing some Skype issues, which might be because everybody is now telecommuting and putting some load on Skype servers. And we're going to talk a little bit about this today. I know you might be overloaded on coronavirus, COVID-19, or whatever we call it nowadays, news. But I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the tech angle and some aspects of that, some useful information as opposed to scary stuff. And the first thing I want to say in regards to this is, don't panic.
Very good advice.
Right. This is not the Black Death.
This is not the zombie outbreak you've been looking for.
Right. This
True.
is not. It's not influenza yet. Now, I don't want you to panic. I don't want you to dismiss it either. I talked to my doctor yesterday at a doctor's appointment. We had a chat about it. I've talked to others. This is not yet as serious as not many people have died of the flu, but it's also we don't have a cure. We don't have a vaccine. We don't even really have good testing for it yet, and so. It's a dangerous, but not apocalyptic situation. Okay.
Well, I know the concern, compared to something like SARS a few years ago and N1H1 it is spreading faster than those did. It is covering much more of the world. Looking, for example, looking at a map of the United States right now, where that Johns Hopkins map, which we'll talk about.
Yep.
I think, there's maybe 5 or 6 states, of which Montana is one of them, that currently, as we record this, does not have a known outbreak yet.
Father Cory, I'm a little jealous right now of you out in Montana there.
Yeah, really. Those of us who are living under a state of emergency over here on this side of the country.
Yeah, that Montana's looking better and better every day, I got to say.
And Maine.
Always
Maine
does.
actually looks good.
Oh, yeah. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this. So the first thing I want to mention is this. It's kind of an amusing article. I want to start with something a little funny from the New York Times. How the rich are dealing with coronavirus differently from the rest of us, where they have concierge doctors treating them and testing them, and they're taking yachts and chartered places instead of first class on commercial airlines and stuff like that. I just thought it was hysterical.
The writer, the author of this article was just upset that it's not him or her that has the private doctor and the private jet and the private yacht.
And did we expect not this to be a thing?
Right.
That somebody would come up with it as a thing for the rich, because the rich always, if people have the means, people can find, that they can find a charter plane and they can also buy out an entire warehouse of toilet paper. So, I mean, really.
Well, and some of this stuff is products that are already on the market that are outside the price range of normal people like you and I. So instead of a $4 bottle of hand sanitizer, it's a $35 bottle of specialty luxury
lotion hand sanitizer with, lotus blossoms and,
Yeah, so I just thought it was kind of funny. I'll put a link to it. You can check out the article if you want to be amused at it. I don't begrudge anyone spending their money that they earned however they want. That's fine. That doesn't bother me. But I just thought it was interesting. Some other interesting, like a technology aspect is it's interesting to me that there are airlines running empty planes around Europe right now during the outbreak because the European Union rules are that if they don't fly the routes, they lose them. If the airlines don't keep planes flying, And so they're wasting thousands of gallons of fuel. Climate change, anyone?
Exactly.
And so somebody ought to waive the rule for a little bit while we're.
Yeah, that concerns me on a whole bunch of levels. Why would you want to keep these people flying around in these tin cans, even though the air is supposed to be okay, but the surfaces are what you need to work? Why do you want to keep doing that just to keep your space in line? I think the EU should, say, look, we're going to just suspend this for right now, and everybody gets their stuff back in like 8 to 10 weeks.
Exactly, and whatever it is, they'll suspend it for however long. So,
that's the challenge. It's one sign though of the challenge with something like this of how are the governments going to respond?
Yes,
not just to the big health crisis, but everything that tails off of that. Like say, airlines. People aren't flying right now, or the numbers of people flying have dramatically dropped because of concerns about this.
Right.
So maybe we should think about the rules that we force these airlines to operate under in response.
Yes. And, other industries like restaurants. And like I was just saying to my wife this morning, so all of these companies are having people work from home, which is fine and great. Hey, I love working from home. I've worked from home for a while now. But what about all of these small businesses then in business districts that make all their money off of selling lunch to workers? They're going to have a big drop in the amount of people coming in. This is going to have ripple effects outward, even if we don't all get sick. But even the precautions have repercussions. So that's something to consider. But let's talk a little bit about some of the specifics for us as individuals. So the first thing is we need to be able to get good, accurate news about what's going on. And well,
sorry that I chuckle at that.
Yeah.
Oh, we both did. Believe me.
One of those sources is this great website from the Johns Hopkins University, which is a grade A Class 1 health organization, and they have a website, the coronavirus COVID-19 global cases. It's like a dashboard, and it has all these charts, and will tell you at a glance. Total confirmed cases around the world, and then broken down by country, total deaths, total recovered, and then this really great graph, which I got to give Jimmy Akin credit for finding this and pointing it to me, which shows over time the number of cases total, like current cases, and how in China it has leveled off, and it appears to be heading toward a leveling off worldwide. Perhaps we'll have to wait and see. It's not quite taken the turn yet. But this is where you go to get the accurate numbers every day. It's updated, I think, several times a day even, for what's actually going on with the number of cases and stuff. Because there's so much stuff flying around, so much claims, memes, links to various questionable sources. Yep. This is the actual data here. So that's I'll put a link to that in the show notes, because one of the things that we've been warned about is that there's a fake version of this map going around.
Yes, I heard about that.
And let me see where that is here.
And that's right. That's where I made the joke about the internet coronavirus, because it actually it basically looks like a screenshot of this actual site, the real site, but it's got a virus, computer virus on the back end of it. So as soon as you log into that new site,
it downloads malware. Right.
Yep.
It was only a matter of time.
Right. So, we have the actual good link. So if you want to find the real link, go to our show notes at sqpn.com/technology. Do not go to the bad link. This is the bad link. Don't go to this. corona-virus-map.com. That's probably, the site's probably down by now, but don't try it because that's a bad idea. Don't get malware. Go to official websites. Go to the World Health Organization website. Go to the CDC website. Make sure it's .gov on the end of it. Don't go to the CDC is not at .com. So those are good places to get the base information.
And I have a tip, especially for people that are in states that have that are already under state of emergency. Go to either the government site or go to your local station site, but go for the governor's briefings. Don't watch what's on the 6 o'clock news where they give you a 7-second snippet of the highlights of everything. If you want to hear everything that's going on in your state, listen to the governor and the health department themselves tell you what's going on.
Right.
Because they've got the accurate info.
Look for the full recording of the press conferences and that sort of stuff. Yeah. If you go to your state.gov in Massachusetts, it's mass.gov, that sort of thing. That's where you'll get accurate information from your state and won't get scammed.
I mean, ultimately, the most important thing you can do is go find the primary information.
Right.
Correct.
Go find the source of information that is from a legitimate source, like Johns Hopkins Hospital, or, again, the state government, World Health Organization, all these legitimate primary source providers.
Yes.
And because the media, I don't think there's such a skepticism to the media in the States today, and with good reason. They're more interested in selling soap than they are telling the truth, it seems like. Or they want you to watch the commercials and get outraged, so you watch more of their channels, so you watch more commercials, et cetera, et cetera.
Or selling a particular political point of view sometimes, if you want to go that way too. Too much of the coverage I've seen has been really like, oh, how is this politician dealing with it? With this news, like, I don't care how the politician. How are we dealing with this dangerous, disease? That's what I don't care how it affects their election chances. Stop campaigning for and against. So you're right. Go to the primary sources. Be very wary of anything that looks like weird .coms and weird, that seem a little too hokey. And also, another bit of advice: stuff that's shared on social media, stuff that even though it looks like it's I heard this so and so from such and such a place say this. Well, take it with a grain of salt. Unless you know that person, you don't know who that is. And just like in 2016, during that election, we had third-party foreign actors, whether states or other groups, try to spread misinformation to undermine our election. They're trying to undermine our country by spreading misinformation about this disease now. So just be skeptical of things. Don't be too credulous. And don't be dismissive either. That's the other thing is this is not just the flu. This is not just a simple. This is more than the flu, but it's also not the bubonic plague. Let's talk a little bit about how to keep your tech clean. Apple has issued official information on how to keep your iPhone clean, and presumably your iPad would fall into the same guidelines since your iPad is basically, and this probably applies to most other phones, although different manufacturers use different coatings, so you probably want to check with the manufacturer of your phone first. But in general, Apple says it's okay to use Clorox disinfecting wipes as a brand, or a wipe that has 70% isopropyl alcohol on it, which is good. That don't immerse your phone in any liquid.
Don't just take a bottle of isopropyl alcohol and drop your phone in it. That's bad.
Yeah. That's a bad idea. Bad idea. Don't you and be judicious with it. Like, keep your thing clean, but don't overdo it. And don't use harsh cleansers, because your phone, especially the screen, has a coating on it that is applied at the factory. And over time, that coating will wear off. I mean, as the phone ages, that will wear off. But putting these cleaners on it too much or too harsh of a cleaner will wear it out, and your phone will the coating that keeps the grease and stuff off of it will wear away, and you don't want to do that. So, but keep your phone clean, keep your technology clean that way. You can use the same sorts of things on your keyboard, your mouse, your trackpad, the screen on your computer. There are specific cleaners made for computer monitors. Those would be better. Do not use Windex or anything that's ammonia or bleach based. That's really bad.
And I don't know about ZAG protectors. I know a lot of people even though the phones supposedly have a good screen, a lot of us put protectors on them.
Right.
I've been trying to look up Zag to see what they suggest, but I think if you have a glass one like I do, I think the Clorox wipes are still going to be okay for that as well.
Right,
you just
even
gotta
better.
be careful with liquid and technology.
Yeah.
You know, just be careful.
Apple says turn the phone off, which
Yes.
I think not just make it dark, but like turn it all the way off. I'll be honest, I don't always do that, but I'm also very careful.
I'll admit, I don't think I've ever cleaned my phone where I've actually turned it off. But that being said, you use something more like an alcohol wipe or a Clorox wipe or something like that.
You're probably
it's
safe.
just
Yeah.
It's even if a little bit gets in there, it's going to evaporate so quick. It's not a concern.
Right. Exactly.
But it's it's interesting. These are things we should have been doing anyways, like cleaning your phone. How often do we do more than just, my screen's a little dirty, so I'll get the wipe out and kind of clean it off a little bit.
I'll admit it. I spill a little peanut butter on there. I'll lick it off and wipe it.
Ew.
Remind me not to touch your phone. Thanks. No, kidding.
That's
kidding.
my trick. No one wants to touch my phone.
Just kidding. I mean, it's not like we hold these things to our ears anyways, when we're talking on them.
Yeah, and let's be honest, a lot of people use their phones in various rooms of the house with, that are dirty. Your phone is probably a pretty dirty thing, and you should be cleaning it regularly anyway. It's your phone
every day.
Yeah, and in fact, I think I saw once like your computer keyboard is the dirtiest thing in any office or home. Actually, in the home, I think the kitchen sponge is worse. But you should be cleaning these things already. And I saw a meme that speaking of memes that said it's the 20th century and we're still or 21st century we're still teaching people how to wash their hands. But the fact is we should have been doing this all along. Yeah. And this is good practice. We should a good reminder for us to be doing these things. All right. So the next thing, keep your tech clean. One of the things I wanted to mention is from the Catholic point of view, some issues. One of the things that came up was going to mass. When you're in mass, you're with a lot of other people, and often older folks. Most of us, our churches are full of lots of older folks who are more susceptible to disease and stuff. Now, in Italy, in Rome, that started first, but I think throughout Italy now, the whole country's on lockdown. They've canceled public masses until April 2nd, just before Palm Sunday. There are private masses that people are able to go to. And I have to say, I don't think we're at that point yet here in this country. I don't think there's any place in this country that's yet at the point where we have to worry about not going to mass. Although there is a bishop out west, and I've got I'll have a link to an article that has how certain different dioceses are dealing with this. But there's a diocese out in the western U.S., I think in San Jose, who basically the bishop there, Bishop Cantu, dispensed anyone who's in the greater risk of health issues from going to mass while under these circumstances. So people over the age of 50. Which is kind of I find it odd to be in these categories now.
Oh, tell me! I'm in that. When they keep saying the elderly over 60, I'm going. Wait a minute.
Hey,
hold on, I just
buddy.
don't fit that category.
But people with health conditions including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, chronic lung diseases, people with severely weakened immune systems. To be honest, my 7-year-old daughter has an asthmatic condition. It's not quite asthma. And the doctor has said in the past, if she gets a bronchial infection of any kind, she might have to be hospitalized. So be very careful. I mean, under those circumstances, we're being extremely cautious. Now, that's not keeping us away from mass, but I'm telling my kids, we go to church, don't use the holy water font. I know they're being clean, but just don't.
Ours are empty.
Yep.
Actually empty.
And if you when you're in the pew, don't hold on to the back of the pew. You know what I mean? Don't rest or what I see some little kids do, they rest their mouth on it because they're at that height. No, don't do that. In fact, maybe we might even bring some wipes and wipe it down just because. Frankly, it would be nice if churches took that initiative and started cleaning. But that said, obviously, a lot of places have suspended the sign of peace, the handshake or hugging. I was a little disappointed this past Sunday. The priest didn't even stop at that point to do the sign of peace, and I was disappointed because I wanted to do the Vulcan hand salute to my wife.
Everybody wants to do that right now.
I told her I was going to do it, and I was like really disappointed. And she kind of looked at me with the eye roll when we rolled right by the sign of peace. I'm like, oh.
Well, it's in our diocese. They just yesterday put out a letter, and one of the things our bishop is doing is he suspended communion by the chalice.
Yep.
For until this is all kind of said and done. He recommended. He said, sign of peace without physical contact. So the Vulcan sign of peace. I'm just taking the, I'm sorry, unless you take the option not to do the sign of peace, people are going to shake hands.
Right.
There is no way to, it's force of habit, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I could stand on my head up there at the altar saying, don't shake hands, don't shake hands, don't shake hands. And people are going to shake hands. That's just how it is.
Well, on this side of the country, they really, at least the ones I've experienced the last couple of weeks, people have really been, putting their hands in front of them, at least bowing to others or waving.
Right.
So at least here, they're getting the message. You might have an odd one that will.
Well, up here in the Northeast, we're God's frozen people. So we having people shake hands with strangers is hard enough as it is. So it's not that unusual. Although, Father Corey, up in Montana, I can imagine having some government official telling people not to shake hands makes them want to shake hands.
I mean, let's put it this way, without getting into too much detail. I've tried to correct things that happen here liturgically that would make Joanne absolutely cringe.
Oh.
And they basically look at me and go, we're still going to do that.
Wow. Yeah.
And I mean, is blunt of, no, I'm still going to keep doing this because I like doing this. It's like, no, you don't get it. That's not what the liturgy is about. So convincing people not to shake someone's hand during the sign of peace.
That's hard.
People are going to do it even if I don't give it. I guarantee you, I will have a parishioner who is going to offer someone else the sign of peace with a handshake, even after me explaining we're not doing the sign of peace at all to prevent the spread of disease.
Right.
I feel
still going to happen.
Now, I want to mention something that came up that there's been some talk in some prominent church clergymen, shall we say, without calling anybody out personally, who've been criticizing the decision to not hold public masses in Rome and now I think the rest of Italy for a month as unprecedented and lacking in faith. And I have this article that someone passed around or someone wrote about there is some precedent for this. In 1918, during the pandemic flu, there was in Zamora, Spain, the bishop there rejected calls to suspend masses. And what ended up happening was that Zamora had a peak death rate in that time period of 10%, whereas the mortality in all of Spain at the same time was 3.8%. I mean, it's not lacking. From my point of view, it is not lacking in faith to use the tools that God gave you to do things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the old joke about the guy who's the flood is coming and he keeps saying no, God's going to come and save me. God's going to come and save me to the boat and the helicopter and the whole thing. And then he dies and goes to heaven and God says, why? He says to God, why didn't you save me? And God says, well, I sent the truck, the boat, and the plane. Why didn't you take any of those?
Exactly.
So this is our, God has given us. It's okay. It's okay. It's not the end of the world to pray with your family at home. Well, it is not a lack of faith to not receive the Eucharist under extreme circumstances.
I think there's some real concern about the medical system in Italy, and that's why the church made this step, that they might not have the ability to handle it if it's not controlled now.
And not just Italy. There's this great chart that's going around that shows if there are a lot of cases at once, even not severe like life-threatening cases, but just severe cases, flood into the hospitals all at once, it will overwhelm the healthcare system. We want to avoid anything that can have a lot of people going to the doctor at once, and that's one of the things we're trying to avoid.
Well, I was going to say, right now, Italy is the second most for confirmed cases.
Yeah.
And
over
it's something
10,000.
like 12,000 cases. We have a little over 1,100 cases in the United States. So
yeah. And Italy had they went from 100 nationwide to 1,000 in 2 days, and then has risen. Now, some of that is we're the people were already sick. We just have tested more people. So be prepared for the American number to jump, but that's going to be because we're testing more people. We're just finding the ones that are already infected. So, Joanne, what were you going to say?
I think we have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Italy right now is under a much bigger crisis than we are. So, of course, to us, it wouldn't make sense. But saying that, I could see possibly going forward places in the United States where this may have to happen.
Right.
Not the entire United States. I could never see the entire bishops' conference saying we're just going to shut it down for a while. But I could see dioceses that might be in areas that need to be controlled say, okay, we may have to do this for 14 days, a month, whatever. I mean, as a director of faith formation right now, I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to have the last part, couple of classes for, in the next couple of weeks, but I'm waiting because I use a school building to see if the school itself will have to close for one reason or another. So I'm not going to turn around and be a reactionary and say, well, I'm just going to close everything and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm going to wait and see what's prudent. And I think that's what God would want us to do. God would want us, God's body and blood is not going to hurt us, but on the other hand, the germs all around us might. So we have to be careful.
And I think we need to explicitly state something that against an old wives' tale. Yes, you can get a disease by receiving from the chalice after someone who has received it. There's not enough of the alcohol in the accidents of wine to sterilize it.
Right.
If you happen to take a sip of the precious blood in the same place where someone had just the flu, you can get the flu from that. You really can.
And the precious blood and the Eucharist, the Eucharist itself is not magic. Not a magic pill, not a magic potion. Don't treat it like that. It's holy, and there's a difference. And so we have to keep that in mind. So we have faith, but that doesn't mean, the history of humanity and history of Christianity, good people do have bad things happen to them. And so it's up to us God gives us both faith and reason to get through life. So that's important. I want to cover a couple more things in this realm. One thing, a lot of people are working from home. The kids are at home. A lot of colleges having kids work, doing classes from home. We've noticed, we do these shows over Skype. We've noticed just now, while we're recording, some the issues that might be the show that Skype is under heavy load. So that you keep that in mind.
Skype is always completely stable on a good day. Ha, ha, ha.
True.
Yeah.
The strobe light effect is getting to me over here.
Yeah, so it's just something to keep in mind. There are a number of options. Zoom, the Google Hangouts is still there. I don't know how much longer that'll be available as a service, but there are several different services that are out there, some for pay and some for free, and so that's just something to keep in mind. And a lot of
the bigger corporations, they have dedicated programs, software that they use. So I mean, it's not like Microsoft and Facebook, two companies, by the way, which have been pushing for all their employees to work from home.
Right.
It's not like they're saying they're overwhelming Skype, although Microsoft obviously would use Skype since Microsoft owns Skype.
Yes.
Right. And I can see Google now resurrecting Hangouts for a while. Because they're going to need another platform because all these platforms are not, spaceless. There's got to be a limit somewhere. So it'd be nice because I always like Google Hangouts.
Yeah. One of the things to keep in mind is how this is going to affect our culture in general if this lasts for any length of time. If there's been lots of talk in recent years about how we need to solve some of our climate issues, our traffic issues, and all those things by having more people work from home, shift the culture to say, they estimate that about 30% of the workforce could work from home, that their work involves things that doesn't require them. Like if you're a waiter, you can't wait tables from home, or a plumber, or a steel worker. Those things you got to be on location. But there are plenty of jobs like mine or office jobs where you could work from home. And I wonder, we've got a couple different articles that talk about this, that this could really, depending on how long it goes on, shift the culture to be more amenable, more what's the word I'm trying to find? To more encouraging to companies to allow more people to work from home. What do you guys think of that?
Or more understanding, because I'll get from people, yeah, you really work at home, wink, wink.
Right.
And when I first started in church ministry, no one had an office for me. So where else was I going to work but home? So I have most of the places I've been, I usually try to work 1 or 2 days at home because of distance. I never work within 10 miles of where I live. So, and I'm used to it and I know how to do it. But there are a lot of people, yeah, if they try to work at home right now, some of them will be playing games, watching streaming video, until they realize that, ooh, my work's got to get done.
Right.
I better start learning how to budget my time. And that's what it takes. Sure, I can work at home, do laundry and cook dinner and still get my hours in.
You got to be self-motivated.
How.
Right. One of the other factors to consider, even if you're not going to goof off, but it's for some people, some of us are introverts and we're fine, but some people are extroverts, and not having people around to interact with can really harm their ability to get things done. They get drained emotionally and mentally drained by not interacting with other people. It can be very difficult for them. And, I feel bad for extroverts, frankly.
Yeah. I don't. They try to force it. I don't, because they try to force us introverts to be extroverts. So.
I know. I'm kind of winking a little bit on that one. Yeah, because it's always like, oh, those poor introverts. They need to come out of their shell. I feel bad for the extroverts who are all cooped up at home.
Well, I'm an extrovert, and I make sure that I make phone calls during the day, or that I get on a messaging system and talk to people.
Exactly.
So I make sure that I have a line of communication open. Because it will drive you crazy if I'm just with the dog all day for 8 hours.
And that's the big thing of figuring out how to use these communication tools that we have with the internet now. Because the fact is, companies are, and before this, were very successfully operating everything off of mostly stay-at-home workers. There are companies that have been very successful at that with the obvious meetings that need to be held in person or what have you.
Yeah, often rarely meetings. I worked from 1997 to about 2004 from home. I worked remotely with my boss when I worked for Catholic World News and Catholic World Report magazine. And even though we lived within 30 miles of each other, we saw each other over the course of those years, about 8 or 9 years. We saw each other in person maybe 4 times over that time. We worked very well. And this was pre-Skype days. This was all via email and phone call. It can happen.
I do love the joke of someone posted, now we really find out which of those meetings can be solved with just an email.
Exactly. How many meetings are really necessary?
I think it is a good thing for companies, though, is they are going to start thinking about this, that, this might be better for us because maybe we don't need as big a headquarters or, offices. This can be better for our employees because they don't have to travel as much.
They don't have to park. They don't have to sit in commuting in traffic or taking the transportation. One of the other things I was thinking about that this could benefit too is companies that specialize in delivery services. Like if I'm quarantined, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to order groceries via, our local things, Peapod or Whole Foods delivery, or I think some people have Amazon now.
Amazon,
or DoorDash or Uber Eats and these various services. And you still got people coming to your door. Although I have a delivery box, they could leave it in the box. But one of the things that I was thinking is these companies that are trying to roll out robots to do a lot of this stuff, to do deliveries where it comes to the door and rings the bell and you go out and you see the little robot there. And these are still companies in their infancy, but they could get a real big boost out of something like this.
True. Yeah, because and employ people who are feeling okay, who don't have the young. This doesn't seem to affect the younger ones
Not as much,
it affects us old fogies, apparently.
Yes.
So they could, and people who are in service work right now who can't work in a restaurant per se could probably move to something like this.
Right, where they don't have to be interacting with people face to face necessarily, but can be doing the delivery of things. Of course, it doesn't help when you're out in Montana, right? I mean,
I was just here going, I'm happy we have delivery pizza here. I mean, that's about all we got. But but it is going to be interesting to see how this goes forward. And This could be like a lot of things where we have 1 month where everything is just bad.
Yep.
We're kind of in the middle of that, and it dies off because, as looking at the charts, they're starting to see that kind of that plateau. Does that mean we've kind of hit the peak, the worst of it, like in China? Is it going to start diminishing? Which in that case, people are going to start coming out more,
right?
And some of these issues may actually be not as big a deal as we think they are right now.
Right, and there's also some thought that maybe that this, like the flu, in the summertime, it will not be as much of an issue because sunlight disinfects and that sort of thing.
Yep.
But naturally, we'll kind of diminish it and then maybe come back again in the fall. So there's some question about that. But maybe by the fall, they'll be the next one to worry about. Right, or a vaccine or something else. So there's something to. But you're right. This could be over in a month and not be an issue, or we could be in this for a little longer of a haul. But it's something to think about. See,
admittedly, I'm kind of skeptical though that this is going to have long-term changes, at least from a United States perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because if nothing else, because we're getting on top of it as quickly as we are here, we've seen what happened in China. We see what's happening in places like Italy. We're getting on top of it quicker. It might actually not be as big an issue here as, again, the media is trying to ramp it up to be.
The danger is that we get on top of it, we get ahead of it. It's not a big deal. And people go, oh, see, you're all worried for nothing. No, it wasn't a big deal because we did stuff,
Well, and again, this happened with swine flu. This happened with
avian flu and
SARS.
H1.
This happened with all these different diseases in the past. It wasn't a big deal here in the United States because our medical system had enough warning that they were able to take precautions early.
And because you all learned to wash your hands. So keep
use
washing
hand sanitizer.
your hands.
Yeah.
Take your vaccines.
Yeah.
A couple other things I just want to point out. There is this website from mycatholicdoctor.com, which they have. They do telehealth, but they're a Catholic medical practice, and they're offering specific information regarding the coronavirus and things. And so what you do is you get direct access to healthcare providers. Like there's a lot of services like this, but this is a specifically Catholic one. So I thought it was interesting that these are doctors who have a Catholic background. Their Catholic faith is a part of how they go about practicing medicine, which is really interesting. And they do face to face via video conferencing, and they're offering some specific. It's at this point it's like advice and calming down and reassurance regarding coronavirus and that sort of stuff, the COVID-19. So I thought that was interesting. And then for your kids who are stuck at home, and if their school gets closed and they're having to do schoolwork from home, hopefully they don't take a lesson from the kids in Wuhan, China, who they were being required to do their schoolwork using this app that was on the Alibaba App Store, I guess, or whatever the app store is they have over there. And there's this one particular app, and a rumor went around among the kids that if an app gets enough 1-star reviews, it gets removed from the app store. So they all started 1-starring this particular app that they were required to use to do their homework. And so this poor app, which is used for other things, not just homework, has just gotten bombarded and sent to the bottom of the charts because of it. I just thought that was funny. It's called Ding Talk.
Did they think it wouldn't happen? I mean, think about it. And then it's going to give the ideas to some others too. But I think at least in the United States, they'll have caught on by now, and they'll say, "Yeah, that's not going to come off." So
right. Yeah, that's not going to. I think that one of those things where now we've seen it happen elsewhere. We're not going to let it happen here. So that's as much I think as we want to talk about this week. I think, and maybe we'll have some updates as there's new information. But if you have questions for us specifically related to tech, Catholic faith, and the virus and that sort of thing, feel free to contact us. We're at technology@sqpn.com or wherever you can leave comments, and we'll try to address anything that comes up. I do want to mention a couple other things. First is, if you've been on the internet for as long as I have, you might remember something called SETI at Home. SETI is an acronym for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. It's a project that Carl Sagan was involved in for many years, and what it does, it's these radio telescopes that are pointed at the sky and absorbed all the radio waves coming in from around the universe.
SETI at Home was like the first big distributed computing project.
Yes. Yeah. So the way it worked is you had to analyze all of this data, and there was so much of it that they didn't have supercomputers. So they came up with this program, this program where you could install some software on your home computer, and you would download bits of it, run the analysis, and upload it back up again, all automated, all in the background. And it was really big 20 years ago. I remember, like, you'd join a team, and different teams would compete to see which team was doing the most cycles and CPU stuff. It kind of faded a bit over time. Well, now they're shutting it down because we've analyzed all the data. All the data that they had has been in, and now they need to kind of sift through the analysis and write the scientific papers based on it. But did either of you do any of these?
Oh yeah, I did SETI at Home for a while. I kind of forgot about it. I had it set up for a couple of years and did some of that. It was an interesting model. The idea of your computer is sitting there not doing anything, so let the screensaver run. Or in the case, like at a Linux box where it would just have a process that would run in the background. It would just grab a chunk of data and do its little computation and send it off and keep going.
The vast majority of your computer's time is sitting there doing nothing. Your computer is idle, essentially. Showing
a slideshow of your pictures because that's the screensaver you've got.
Right. Or even when you're working, I'm not typing all the time. I'm not, necessarily, even if I'm moving the mouse every few seconds, that's an eternity for a computer. So and nowadays our computers are so powerful that there's so much overhead that's available that it makes it even more powerful. So SETI at Home is done. So the next step is to go see if ET's been calling us. But there's actually of course, as there is nowadays, there's a coronavirus connection, which is there's a similar program called Folding at Home, which is it analyzes protein folding algorithm. I don't know. It's the science is above my head, but it has something to do with analyzing organic proteins. And one of the things that it can analyze is it helps analyze the viruses, including coronavirus. So maybe your computer could help find the cure for what ails us.
There you go.
So there's you could join those programs as well. But farewell, SETI at Home. Hopefully you found some alien life, and it's a matter of time of we find out what that is. Then we talked last time about a company that lets you sue robocallers. That you just have to use a supplied virtual credit card, and then you can sue them for $3,000 a breach. Well, there's another one of these out there. For $3, a robot lawyer, it was quote unquote, will sue data brokers that don't delete your personal and location info. So, the California Consumer Privacy Act, it's a new law in California, says that the consumers who want to exercise their rights to have companies stop collecting their personal data, which is new under this law, they have to contact every data broker individually, and there are more than 100 registered data brokers out there. So this startup called Do Not Pay is $3 a month, will contact all of these data brokers on your behalf and demand they delete your and your family's personal information, and then it will show you what data they've collected and even initiate legal proceedings if they fail to comply. So, is this a well-spent $3? I don't know.
I would be very skeptical. And of course, with as successful as the Do Not Call registry has been,
Yeah,
exactly. I'm all for data privacy. I just wonder how easy is it going to be actually to get this to work? Again, like this robot lawyer saying, I'm going to mass spam out 100 letters and, they have to respond. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
One word gimmick.
It is. Someone's looking to make not just $1, but $3 a month from you on this. I'll be curious to see whether, is it of lasting value for your privacy online? I don't know. I would counsel skepticism too.
And the fact is, there's no such thing as data privacy online. Even with these laws, Europe has shown that even there's still issues of data privacy breaches and stuff like that.
Yep.
The internet operates off your data. That's how the internet sits right now. It's a data depository.
Right. All right. So let's move on to our picks of the week. We'll wrap things up this week with some fun picks that we can have, or useful picks. Those are always good too. And Joanne, let's start with you. What's your pick this week?
Well, as somebody who deals with music and genealogy, I need scanners all the time. So there is a free app for iOS, and I believe it's probably also an Android, called Adobe Scan. Now, you don't have to be part of the Adobe suite to have Adobe Scan, and it's a very robust scanner that I like a lot. And especially for music, for you musicians, I pair it with the app Fourscore, which allows me to put music in very nice little piles of this happens all the time to me when I'm when I'm half asleep now. In nice little programs, okay, where I have to do programs every week, and I need a program for each mass. So the thing about the Adobe Scan is it works seamlessly. If you take a picture of your music, now let's not talk about copyright laws yet, but when you take a picture of your music to put it in the app, you can play with it, you can crop it, you can enhance it, and then put it right into Fourscore. Fourscore won't let you manipulate. They have a scanner too, but it won't let you manipulate the scans as well as Adobe Scan does. For genealogy, if you happen to be somewhere that you need to take pictures of books, before scanners, we used to have to write everything down or go to the copy machine, spend 25 cents a copy. Adobe Scan is really nice to be able to, again, cleanly take a robust picture of whatever the information is. So I highly recommend it. Now, the one thing is, if you are part of the Adobe system and you are part of the document cloud, it will store things there. If you're not, it'll just store it in your device. So, and I haven't figured out yet if it will store it somewhere else in your computer, but because I have the document cloud, I don't need that. So you just find it in the Apple Store. It's free. It's probably in Google Play. Same thing.
Yep,
and
it is. Yep, I just checked. It is available for Android and Google Play.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. I've tried a whole bunch of different scanning apps, and I happen to like this one the most. But Excellent. If you're a musician and you have Fourscore, it pairs very nicely with that.
Great idea. Father Corey, what's your pick this week?
So mine actually kind of plays on some of the topics we discussed, were remote working from home, or remote computing, or what have you. Microsoft's remote desktop software to do your remote work, of course, in theory going to a Microsoft computer, but anything that handles remote desktop
VNC.
Will work with this VNC. Thank you. Yep. I was gonna say VPN, but I knew that wasn't it. VNC.
Yeah.
Will work with it, and it's actually a fairly easy to use program. Of course, I'm Mac based, as are the other two panelists. But I do have a Windows computer that sits elsewhere. It doesn't sit at my desk. And there's times I need to do things. For example, I've got a Canon, a nice Canon, office style copier scanner. You've seen them, the Image Runner style system that I print from. And it prints from Mac great, but it does not scan to Mac. That's something that Canon irritates me, that they have not come out with a Mac software for scanning from this copier.
Yeah.
Especially since they support printing to it from Mac. So I've got this Windows computer, and the remote desktop works great to be able to use this Microsoft remote desktop tool, go to that Windows computer, tell it to scan, and then it goes, uses, OneDrive or Dropbox or whatever, and I can just grab the file real quick. It's just kind of a workaround. But it is great for being able to quickly and easily connect to this computer, do the work I need to do, or even, there's a couple of games I play that run on Windows that work well with it. They're not super high def 3D, right. Those don't work so well. But, some fairly basic games work really well being able to just go and do the remote desktop and do your work. And so, for companies where if you've got VPN connection to your company's network, you can very easily set up your desktop computer at your office so that you can just remote desktop with corporate security, et cetera, and get right in and do the work you need to do remotely.
And it's like you're working on your desktop at your computer at work from whatever you have at home, a Mac or it even works on apparently HoloLens, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So it's nice to, you can full screen it. So it is just like you've got the Windows desktop sitting there on your second monitor or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So thank you. That's a good one. My pick this week is a new old app that's out again. It's a little bit of a nostalgia pick in the sense of NetNewsWire. NetNewsWire was one of the first Mac RSS apps. Now, RSS, what is RSS? Back in the day when we were all reading blogs, it was RSS was the way of putting a link into some software and it collecting all of the new articles whenever something new was posted. And in fact, if you subscribe to this podcast, that's how you're getting it, is through RSS. That's how podcast apps work. So, but NetNewsWire, it was around years ago. It was, what is his name? There was the developer who was writing it. He sold it off to this other company, and then they sold it to somebody else. And long story short, they kind of let it die. And now the original developer has bought it back, and he's redeveloping it for iOS and Mac. He says so. That's pretty cool. I have the iOS version. That's the one I was picking, and it's nice. You can have it either have your RSS links to various websites local. On your iPad, say, or on your phone, or what I do is I have a Feedly account. You could use Feedly, Feedbin, and I think there's a third one. I forget what it is, where it pulls from that, and then that will sync with whatever software you're using on your Mac, or you can use different software to do the same thing. So I don't want to go into all the details on it. You can check it out, but my pick is NetNewsWire. It's free, it's open source, and it's available again. As he says, it's like podcasts, but for reading. So that would be, I think, right up the alley for folks who listen to this podcast.
Yeah, it's funny that there are groups that say, oh, RSS is dead. It's like, no, RSS is still running podcasts. Podcasts still exist. There are plenty of other, sites and blogs and everything that still exist and still operate on RSS. So
that's right. And be careful. There's a couple different links if you Google it. There's a couple links to older versions. You want to make sure you get the latest version. So I'll make sure to get the actual latest links in the show notes on our site. All right. So as we finish up, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Technology, including this time Tori, Richard S., Andrew S., Linda K., and Michael C. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So, what do you think of our discussion? If you have any feedback you'd like to give or questions you'd like to ask, you can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And as I said, you can find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. If you can, we'd greatly appreciate it if you would take a moment and go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast from and write a review of the show. That really helps us to reach out to new listeners and to grow the show audience, as well as if you share the podcast with your friends. If you have friends who you think might benefit from this type of show, sharing it with them does a service for both them and for us, and we would greatly appreciate it. You would be a good friend. Until next time, Father Corey Stika, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Technology.
Thank you, Dom.
And Joanne Mercier, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.